Westminster stands on the precipice of its most profound constitutional crisis in living memory. The Supreme Court's extraordinary intervention, ordering the resignation of a sitting leader of the opposition, has sent shockwaves through the British political establishment. This isn't merely about Keir Starmer's political future. This is about £22 billion of taxpayer money vanishing into thin air, a systemic breakdown of accountability, and a Labour Party now fighting for its very survival. The scale of financial irregularity uncovered dwarfs even the most pessimistic predictions. Forensic audits reveal £8.3 billion was funneled through a network of newly registered companies in the British Virgin Islands, while another £6.7 billion disappeared into opaque consultancy fees paid to firms employing former Labour special advisors. The remaining funds were distributed through a Byzantine system of regional grants and local authority payments with minimal oversight or documentation. What makes this scandal particularly devastating is the paper trail leading straight to Starmer's inner circle. The Supreme Court judgment references 47 separate instances where the leader of the opposition's office overruled Treasury officials to fast-track payments to questionable recipients. Most damning are the WhatsApp messages between Starmer and his then-shadow chancellor, showing explicit awareness of the financial irregularities as early as September 2022. The political fallout has been immediate and catastrophic. 5 shadow ministers have resigned within 24 hours of the ruling, with former loyalists now describing a culture of financial recklessness at the heart of Starmer's operation. The Labour leader's attempts to frame this as a political witch hunt collapsed when the court released audio recordings of a meeting where Starmer allegedly instructed aides to bury the spreadsheets before the auditors arrive. Constitutional experts are sounding alarms about the unprecedented nature of this crisis. Never in modern British history has the judiciary directly ordered the removal of an opposition leader. The court's ruling cites Section 3 of the Constitutional Reform Act 2005, arguing Starmer's actions represent such egregious contempt for democratic accountability that normal parliamentary processes cannot apply. Legal scholars are divided on whether this sets a dangerous precedent or provides necessary safeguards against systemic corruption. The human cost of this scandal is only now coming into focus. At least £3 billion was diverted from the Social Care Emergency Fund, leaving dozens of local authorities unable to meet basic obligations to vulnerable residents. Hospitals in the northeast report critical equipment shortages after £1.2 billion in pledged infrastructure investment never materialized. Perhaps most tragically, the court uncovered evidence that £450 million earmarked for veterans' mental health services was instead used to prop up failing Labour-linked housing associations. Starmer's refusal to comply with the resignation order has triggered a constitutional standoff. The Speaker has been forced to recall Parliament during summer recess, while the Crown Prosecution Service confirms it is considering criminal charges under the Fraud Act 2006. Meanwhile, Labour's National Executive Committee has entered emergency session, with moderates and the left locked in battle over whether to force Starmer's immediate removal or attempt a doomed legal appeal. The scandal's ripple effects extend far beyond party politics. The pound has fallen to its lowest level against the dollar since 1985, as international markets react to Britain's deteriorating governance standards. Credit rating agencies have placed UK government bonds on negative watch, while the OECD has paused all infrastructure funding commitments. Even the monarchy has been drawn into the crisis, with Buckingham Palace reportedly deeply concerned about the damage to Britain's democratic institutions. As protesters gather outside Parliament and constituency Labour parties demand mass deselections, the question is no longer whether Starmer will go, but how much of the Labour Party will survive his downfall. The £22 billion scandal has exposed fatal flaws in Britain's financial oversight systems, shattered public trust in the official opposition, and created a power vacuum that fringe political movements are rushing to fill. What comes next may redefine British politics for a generation. The Supreme Court's intervention raises profound questions about the balance of power in Britain's democracy. Legal analysts note the judgment effectively establishes judicial oversight of parliamentary conduct in cases of extreme financial malfeasance, a precedent that could reshape the relationship between government branches. Constitutional conservatives warn of creeping judicial overreach, while transparency advocates argue this was the only remedy for systemic corruption that Parliament failed to address. Financial forensic teams continue uncovering new dimensions to the scandal. Fresh documents reveal £1.8 billion was funneled through a network of 17 interlinked think tanks and policy institutes, many employing Starmer allies at salaries exceeding £250,000 annually. Investigators have identified 94 separate instances where due diligence procedures were deliberately circumvented, with one civil service memo bluntly stating the leader's office demanded we skip the checks. The human dimension grows more tragic by the day. Charities supporting disabled children have closed after promised funding vanished, while half-completed social housing projects stand abandoned across the Midlands. Perhaps most damning is the evidence that £650 million meant for NHS mental health crisis teams was diverted to a PR firm tasked with rebranding Starmer's public image during the pandemic. As Labour MPs return to their constituencies, many face unprecedented public fury. Traditional Labour strongholds in northern industrial towns, already sceptical of Starmer's leadership, have seen protest votes surge to 38% in overnight polling. The Reform Party has doubled its national support in a week, while Conservative strategists report their own internal warnings about contagion spreading across the political spectrum.